And welcome back to another episode of Alive Partner TV. I am your host, Dr. Mario, and I am so excited to be here with you today because this is something that I have been wanting to talk for quite some time about, and I had not really found the time to actually talk about it. And it is about the silent power of Vipassana. If you're new to my community here in Alive Partner, I want to welcome you. And if you haven't actually subscribed to our channel, I'm going to ask you to subscribe and click on the little alarm so that whenever we're going live, you can actually see our content. If you're not part of our newsletter, go ahead and click on the link below so you can actually subscribe to it, because every single week we're sharing tips and tools absolutely for free with everybody who is part of our community. And this is the Ally Partner community where we support people to be able to reconnect within themselves, with their partners, and with others through the power of the feeling body. Today, I want to talk about something like I was mentioning, which is very dear to me. A lot of people don't know about this. Some that may know about it, they don't really understand exactly how it may work, and it's something that actually changed my life. As it turns out, meditating and breathing, what I like to call here in the Alive Partner community, intentional breathing, is part of the different tools that we actually teach to our community members as we go through the different processes and works that we do in our courses, whether it's the Alive Partner course or the Stop Fighting Challenge or the 28-day gratitude launchpad or some of the coaching programs that we have for men and women. But in all the years that I have been doing a lot of this work, now pretty much 30 years in the personal development industry, and I'm a physician, done a lot of this work also in the mind body medicine space. I had the opportunity to go and be involved with different kinds of breathing, different kinds of meditation forms, and so on. And interestingly enough, last year I was going through a big purge in my life and going through a bunch of things that I had in my office, in my house, and I just wanted to simplify, simplify, simplify. And as it turns out, I came across some journals that were meditation journals that dated back to March of 2000. And I thought it was really amazing because I knew that I had been doing some of this work, along the years and so on, but I couldn't really place it. So at the very least, I can speak to the fact that, I've been doing it for at least that long. But Vipassana is a completely different topic. And if you're not acquainted with what that is all about, Vipassana is a meditation style that goes back to techniques developed by the Buddha. So essentially, thousands of years old. And as it turns out, in the 20th century, there was a gentleman from Burma who essentially dug out all of this stuff and brought it back to a more mainstream sort of application and utilization of it. And his name was S.N. Goenka. And Goenka started to do trips between Burma and India. His mother was living in India at the time, and she was pretty ill, and basically started to bring this meditation practice to help her and the family go through the healing journey and so on. And as it turns out, people in India that were invited to be part of those first encounters doing this meditation style and so on, they started to say to him, I think that there's something here and you should just drop everything you're doing and start talking about this, all over the world. And as it turns out, that's exactly what happened. And he started to establish the practice of Vipassana meditation style, and it has become something that is being done globally. And what is this whole thing of Vipassana, and what is it really mostly known for? Or as it turns out, when we talk about Vipassana starts with a kind of breathing style which is called Anapana breathing or Anapana meditation, where a lot of the intention that you have and a lot of the awareness that you bring to the process of breathing essentially starts with the tip of your nose, and it just moves to one corner of your upper lip. Then you basically go through the upper portion of the upper lip to the other corner of the upper lip, and then back to the tip of your nose. So essentially, you're forming this little triangle where you're bringing all of your intention and all of your attention, if you will, and all of your focus into that particular area. And a lot of this breathing that eventually becomes Vipassana, when Vipassana meditation is done, rather than just focusing on that little triangle that I just described, the attention essentially expands to your entire body, essentially going from the very top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And it's a really powerful uh, way of doing and practicing this kind of meditation, because essentially as you're meditating with no use of mantras or chanting or anything like that, and the breath is not forced. If you know about different kinds of breath, maybe you're thinking about, breath of fire, for example, which is a style. There's none of that. Everything is absolutely organic, and all you're doing is just completely witnessing what's happening inside of you and witnessing all of the experiences that you're having through your body. Now, let's take that a step further. So Vipassana then is further known, or that kind of meditation style, for doing 10-day silent meditation retreats. And this is where my piece comes into play. As a matter of fact, one of my mentors some years back mentioned to me, have you ever considered doing a Vipassana meditation retreat? And I had heard about the whole aspect of doing, silent retreats for a couple of days and so on, but never really quite the Vipassana style. And I said to him, well, tell me a little bit more about that. He said, well, there is about 300 different centers across the world that they do this kind of Vipassana meditation retreats, and they have different kinds of offerings. But, the main one that we're talking about here is you go to this 10-day silent meditation retreat. Well, when that was first said to me, my first reaction was, man, to have to take 10 days out of my life, I'm pretty busy doing a bunch of different things. I'll have to just be completely unplugged from the world. The idea of just completely unplugging and doing that was kind of scary. And I didn't really have much information. So then I said, well, you know what, let me just actually look into that. So I started looking into it, and I started to do some research. There is a website for it called Dhamma.org, DHAMMA.org, Dhamma.org. And that's where you have all the information about, the 300 plus Vipassana meditation retreat centers across the world. There's centers that you don't have to pay for it. Everything is based on donation. So essentially, you go to a particular center where you can get in. And I will let you know that getting into the centers can be quite difficult. Sometimes they open the retreats, could be 3, 4, 5, 6 months in advance, and they fill up right away because it's limited seating, and they have their ways of assigning it. Some people may have some preference over others, whether it's cultural ways of filtering that, or maybe if you've been before, they will give you a higher priority, or maybe if you haven't been, you'll have a higher priority. So they have different centers have different ways of doing it. So there's no guarantee thing that you're just going to open up the internet and go into the website and find a place and boom, there you are. So as it turns out, I started doing all this research. We had just come out of COVID and all of that. So there was a lot of restrictions across the world in terms of how the retreats were still being conducted, and people being masked and being tested for COVID, etc. So it was actually logistically also a bit of a challenge. But what I did not know is that once you got there, essentially you voluntarily surrender all the belongings, with the exception of your clothes and your toiletries, and no writing utensils, no journaling, no phones, nothing like that. Essentially just, your clothes and your toiletries, and that's it. And once the process starts, once you have the kind of like the first organizational meeting at the very beginning of the 10-day retreat, then you go into what's called noble silence. And noble silence, which gets observed until the very last day when noble silence is ended officially in the retreat. Essentially, you are not talking to anybody. You are not making eye contact with anybody. You have your assigned seating for your dining hall area, and the same thing for the meditation hall. So you're always going to the same spot, and essentially you're living for a third of a month in this state where you are with yourself. And that was kind of interesting because I will confess, when I first went into the experience, I said, okay, this is going to be absolutely great. It's almost like a little mini retreat, and you'll just be able to relax and you don't have to think about much. But the what starts to happen and unfold with the daily practices as you're guided, there is going to be audio information that guides some of the meditations. In some other instances, there's video recordings with SN Goenka, and this is usually done towards the end of the day, what they call the discourse of the day. Um, and then there's obviously the teachers. There's a female and a male teacher to guide everybody. The groups are segmented between men and women within the same meditation hall, but split one half, one gender, and then the other half the other gender. And that's pretty much it. So the experience is really, at the end of the day, you're you with you. And in the beginning, like I was saying, you may feel completely like this is just going to be easy, because I'm just going to be quiet and I'm just going to do my thing and I'm going to go and meditate. But then the special sort of aspect of the process starts to happen, where you start to suddenly, along those days early on, things start to become really uncomfortable, and you're sitting hours on end. You start your day at 4 o'clock in the morning, and still 10 o'clock at night, you're kind of finishing up your day every single day in that process. It's incredibly intense from that standpoint, not because anybody's forcing you to do anything. It's actually extremely compassionate and kind. And that was my experience of it. Even though you're not talking to anybody, but you can feel that, you can sense that nobody's forcing you, or telling you have to sit in this position, and you have to be contorted or whatever, like so you were doing yoga. It's nothing like that. It's basically you with you, and that is actually the hardest part of it all. In this day and age, in the 21st century, to take such a big pause from life just to do this thing, and then start to meet those spaces of you that may be completely and utterly uncomfortable for you to look at, is actually pretty remarkable. And I'll be completely honest, as I was going through the process, I'm kind of asking myself all along, when is the big moment going to happen here? When is the big, earth shattering situation going to happen, where I'm just going to feel this sense of freedom, and like I've been enlightened and so on. And I'm like, just kind of going through the whole thing, really doing everything that every day is calling in, completely devoted to the practice, and really grateful for this journey of being able to be there. But nothing really was completely happening for me, or at least I didn't really feel any different, until, in fact, the very last day. And on the very last day, I have somebody. Noble silence, by the way, had been already lifted, so now people are kind of starting to engage one another. It's kind of weird, that moment where you're kind of starting to talk again to humans who you cannot talk to for all that time while they're still around you. And now everybody's kind of being chatty catty and talking and so on. And as I'm walking to my room, once noble silence had been lifted, I had a gentleman that came to me and said, I want to thank you, Mario. Our names were in front of our mats the whole time, so you could actually, if you look at the floor, you could see who the person's name was. So this person says to me, hey, Mario, I just want to thank you. And I looked at the person and I introduced myself. He introduced himself. And he said, I just want to thank you for having been the great partner, meditation partner that you have been the whole week, and holding space for me to be in that space and have my meditation experience. And I must confess, in that moment, I was sort of confused immediately. And then I replied right away, and I said, well, thank you so much. That's amazing. I feel so grateful, and thanks to you for the same too. And then we just said a few more words, and then I just went to my room. And as I was going there, I started to have this ominous feeling, almost like a black cloud was coming over me, and feeling this tremendous sense of overwhelm, which I had never experienced before in my entire life. And I put my shoes on and I walked outside to a little courtyard where this particular center was at, that it had. And I just felt this tremendous wave of overwhelm, almost like a depressed sort of state. And I said, gosh, I really have to be with this. And as I am walking into the courtyard, and tears start to stream down my face, and it was incredibly powerful. I completely was so overwhelmed by the whole thing. I didn't know exactly why this was happening, and I said, whatever this is, and this was a product of what I have been doing. I want to experience and feel everything that is here for me. I'm just going to look and rush myself to the first tree that I can find. And I'm going to sit down there and just allow whatever this is to come into me and inform me of this experience. And that's exactly what I did. I just sat under a big tree and I was just sobbing and tears coming, just all these emotions just flourishing and coming out of me. It was really incredible. And through that process, a lot of different awarenesses came to me that were not part of the journey prior to that very moment. And it was so cathartic. It was almost like all these things had been pented up in their emotions that I didn't even know that I had inside of me. They were completely released, completely experienced. It was just a very powerful moment. As I was going through all of that, I probably spent about an hour just in that process of crying, being overwhelmed, of tearing, of just, with my eyes closed, breathing, allowing all of this stuff to be going through me. And once I felt I was done, I walked right back into the building and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of like freshen up and get ready for the remainder of the day. I lay down for a couple of minutes to kind of recompose. And as I'm doing that, then I have these images that came into my awareness once again, and then tears start streaming down my face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more here. And at that point, I decided to go into this incredible meditation hall where we spent the whole 10 days and spend more time on a mat, basically just allowing all of this stuff to happen. And then I had the incredible realization of how powerful this place of stillness, this place of silence, this place that was allowing me to meet myself in a way that I had never been able to in my adult life, despite all the things that I have done in the mind body medicine space, meditation space, etc. Had never really experienced anything to that degree because of the stillness, the quietude, the conditions that were set for those of us who were there in that center for those days. And it definitely clicked at that point. So now I was being brought back full circle to my search for the past 10, 11 days that I have been there up to that point, waiting and waiting to see what was going to be that moment. And that moment was entirely triggered by another human being saying to me, thank you. And Vipassana, to this day, multiple years after having done that experience, continues to resonate with me deeply and continues to be something that I practice on a daily basis. In fact, it's part of my daily morning routines when I wake up, part of my meditation, which I do every single day. It's the Vipassana style, which I continue to do. And I would have to say that the outcomes from that are simply spectacular in every single domain of my life. Not what you can do with your relationships, if you're in a partnership or maybe if you're a parent, but what it does with pretty much everything. Your professional life gets completely impacted by this. The moments of clarity that you get, the moments of the determination that comes through you because you have all that intention. It comes together like a laser focus, and that is super, super powerful. And I continue to experience it still to this day, to the point that it's one of my things. Whether it's Vipassana or my gratitude practice, it's one of the things that continues to happen on a daily basis. And it's actually very poignant because right now, today, we are on day 14 of the 28-day gratitude launchpad, which is one of the things that we offer here in the Alive Partner community. And if you're new to my community, I'm going to encourage you to go on the link below and take a look at this program, which is a 28-day gratitude launchpad. Every single day, I am meeting virtually with my community of participants who are in the program. And every single day, we have what's called a quick vite, which is a quick invite or a small invite where I'm asking the participants to do very specific things to heighten their awareness, and then to pair that up with something that I teach, which is accessing the power of the feeling body. And I'll get a little medical here on you for a second. I can't avoid my nature of being a physician now for almost 30 years, and really touching, upon and accessing the power of your body. You see, typically, and still here in the 21st century, we're talking about the brain, and we're just all about the brain. You're such a genius. Wow, what a brilliant mind. But something that I have learned in my journey as a physician and having gone to Harvard, Yale, and Columbia universities for my medical education is that the most neglected part of our entire body, which is perhaps the most powerful, is your feeling body, which is accessing all of this stuff to inform you and ultimately inform the brain to make very different decisions. And Vipassana, along with the power of gratitude, which is one of the things that we teach in the Launchpad, the aspect of gratitude plus the feeling body, those two things, they pretty much put your entire life on a different trajectory. And this is something that I continue to see cycle after cycle. When I talk about cycle, I refer to 28-day chunks that we do the gratitude Launchpad at a time. And the journey, the transformation, the breakthroughs that people have once they start to practice this, which is very easy to do, the practice of practicing gratitude along with activating your feeling body, completely changes the experience of life. And in my particular case, I've been doing that now for almost 4 years, every single month. I've added to that the way that I do my meditations using Vipassana style, and it is simply remarkable the amount of changes, transformation, incredible things that happen on a daily basis. The way that my health has felt, especially after the COVID years, my health deteriorated, and with all of this, it has completely changed my experience of my entire health. So there's a lot of benefits from this. If this is something that you know about and you know about this topic or you have experience with this, I would like you to leave me a comment. Hey, Mario, I actually know about that. I've done it. I did it, wherever you did it. What was happening in your life prior to, and what happened after you did it, and if you're still doing it or not. And if you have fallen off doing it, why is it that you're not doing it? We'd love to hear your comments, and I get to read them all and reply to them. And this is what I have found to be the super powerful aspect and the power of silence when it comes to the Vipassana meditation style. I am Dr. Mario here at alivepartner.com. I go live every single Wednesday on YouTube Live at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. If you're watching the recording, you can catch me next week, or else you can actually catch me live this week again on Instagram, also at 1:30 p.m., where I go on Instagram Live for the Alive Partner TV. I sincerely wish that this has given you a kind of like a little introduction into the whole world of Vipassana meditation and what this may be like. And I would love to hear your comments. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, share if you resonated with this content to others so that they can actually benefit from it. And I love to think about the aspect of the ripple effect, meaning that if this is something that resonated with you or really brought some new awareness into your life, in you sharing it with somebody else, that can actually change somebody's life or make their lives better. So you may be the catalyst of change for somebody's life. So until next time, I sincerely wish that this was something that was of your liking and you resonated with it. Leave me a comment so I can communicate with you. And I can't wait to see you next time. Have a great one. See ya.